welcome back to our podcast. No todo se cura con Vex. This is episode 3. Today is a goodie. It's a really good episode.
Yes, it is.
But before we get into how good this episode is going to be, we want to share a little
Disclaimer. So this podcast is not intended to be used as therapy session. We are sharing our experiences, journeys, and the resources that helped us. So we strongly encourage our listeners to find a licensed therapist if they're being called to begin or dig deeper into their self-discovery journey.
Absolutely. With that being said, as you probably already know, I am Maggie.
And I am Jessie.
And I am Heidi.
Your host of No Todo Se Cura con Vex. So today we're going to be talking about parenting.
Ooh la la. Parenting.
Parenting
Wow.
while Dominican.
Oh, yes.
And we're gonna go into our journey, our like motherhood journey, and we're gonna get a little candid of things that we enjoy, things that we will do different. You know, there's a lot of things that are actually gonna go on in this episode. So I just want to ask. So we're gonna share a little bit of our own journey with parenting. Yeah. For example, as you all know, I'm a mother of a 4-year-old. And I love being his mom. He's a wonderful little boy. I'm glad you do love being his mom. But, you know, I feel like what this journey has taught me is one, what like real unconditional love is.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Because the only person that I love unconditionally is
two boobies.
my son, right?
Yep.
It taught me how strong I am too,
Oh, yes.
you know?
Yeah.
To have to go through like different things with them and through this whole journey and like how strong we are.
Yes. Absolutely. As individuals, as women, we grow in a different way. We learn so much. They say our children learn from us, but I think that it's incredible the amount of growth you automatically have to have when you're caring for your baby, you know?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I am raising 2 boys, and we don't even have brothers, so I don't even know what it is, right? Like, to take care of boys, because it's 4 sisters. Like, we don't have a brother, and this was something completely new to me, but oh my God, you're so right. Like, the unconditional love, and to also as a female, especially like as a Latina, to raise 2 boys, 2 brown boys, it's been an experience. It's been a beautiful journey, but it's also, there's a lot of challenges to it.
And fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fear that comes with parenting because you don't, it's like you don't know what you're doing sometimes, you know, it's like, and you're constantly wondering, like, is what I'm doing enough?
Always. And it's not a one shoe fits all situation. Every child is different.
Yes.
Sometimes communication is different. So it's always, I feel like every single day, you're just trying to figure it out. You're trying to see this attitude, a new attitude. You're both growing together. Because every time they grow, you're in different stages. So one of the things I taught my daughter, every single time she would have an attitude, I didn't know how to handle the situation. When everything was calm, I would tell her this all the time to this day. This is the first time I have a 19-year-old as a 43-year-old. We're figuring this shit out. You know? So.
Absolutely.
Yes, definitely. You know, you do struggle with that. Like is what I'm doing
enough? Like, is, like, am I being a good mom?
Oh yeah.
All the time. Yes. All the time. I think that's the question, right? And the raising, right? Like, there's just so many fears about, like I said, once again, raising men, boys, right? Like, it's just, they go through many things that we as females don't go through. And so also trying to understand where they're coming from and understand how they express themselves, but also showing them, because in our community, that whole thing about machismo, boys don't cry, you gotta be strong, boys don't clean. Yeah, so how do you create like a balance? And that is just like, for me personally, it just, every day, like, I learn so much. Even now, they're grown, right? And I still, like, learn so much of how they face their challenges, how they think, because they both are two different people. They both have beautiful qualities, but they see things differently, and they have different experiences. So while also kind of like fighting my inner Dominican mom.
Oh yes.
It still comes out. It's crazy, but it still comes out. Like, they be looking at me like, what? Ya, tú me oíste a mí.
Se le mete como una loquera. Uno me lo mira a los muchachos, and Alicia's always like, what? Where did that come from?
Yes. So it's also fighting her, because she sometimes really wants to be awake and take control of these two kids.
She's like, we're gonna raise these kids like in 1975.
Absolutely. And talking about that, it's also your inner child comes up too when you're trying to parent. That's another topic, another episode.
Yeah, and like mothers that are single, for instance, that's very difficult for a single mom raising boys, which we know probably somebody in our lives. My mom was a single mom for a while, and then I know friends and siblings, friends and family members that are raising their children alone. I think any gender is difficult, because girls too, but I also know and am aware of what it feels like to see brown men with the machismo upbringing, and then what their expectations are, and then they have no safe space to really, figure out how to handle and deal with things that come up. Like depression and anger and all this stuff, because you need to be a certain way. So it's definitely a lot of lack of awareness in our culture for men. So there's hostility, there's their expression, certain things that come up, and it's because they don't know where to let go of these expectations,
Yeah. So if there's one thing that you guys would have done different, what would it have been?
That's a good one. There's a lot of things.
Yeah.
I was a mom at a pretty young age. Like,
How old were you, Jessie?
when I had my first son, I got pregnant at 22, but I gave birth at 23.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, so there's a lot of different things. I'm gonna say, right, I think, like, thinking about my experience as a mother, there could have been a lot of things that I could have done differently. I'm not perfect. And like I said, I was young, and my 20s were hard.
Yeah.
So my 20s were challenging emotionally. So I think that what I would have done differently is, and I say this to everyone, like, when people come to me and they're pregnant or they're planning to have a baby, and they're like, hey, what do you think? What should we do? Like, what's your advice? My first thing is, go get therapy. That's my first answer.
Wow.
Go get therapy. There's just so much, all of your inner child, your past traumas, kids tend to bring that up when you become a parent. They really awaken that. And sometimes it can be very difficult to manage that while also being a parent. So I think what I would have done, the first thing I would have done differently, because there's a lot of things if I start thinking about all the things, is I would have definitely taken care of my mental health, and I would have gone to therapy so that I could have been much more emotionally present for my firstborn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
For me, therapy definitely, as you speak it, now I'm like, oh, that's something I should have done.
Yeah. Forget the down payment of the house.
I see.
Forget how we're gonna
Yeah.
live and pay rent.
Yeah.
Do that first.
Yeah.
Take care of that.
There's a lot going on, and let's not even talk about, postpartum depression.
Yes.
So it's something I struggled with, and definitely didn't know what to do with what was coming up. So the fear definitely came out, and my daughter got a lot of that. You know, she saw. She's my best friend. I'm sorry. Like she's seen every raw, authentic Heidi. She's seen me when I was going through the worst parts of my life and when I was going through the best parts of my life. And another thing I've been teaching her is that I'm not perfect. I'm learning every single day, and that's another expectations. We need to be a certain way, as the Latina. Show up. Don't really show too much that you're feeling defeated and scared and you're struggling. You gotta mask that. But she got to experience. Sometimes I didn't know how to figure it out. And I'm sorry, definitely not dumping these things on your children. That's where I feel like you said therapy would have definitely been something that I could have really, used. But that, like learning how to deal with your emotions, learning how to, talk, better communication. And I sometimes, that guilt comes back to me and haunts me sometimes where I'm like, oh my God. And then I have to do those self-talks. Heidi, you try the best in that moment. You did the best you can. And there's always room and time, But that's one thing I would do. I would have worked on a better communication and therapy.
Yeah. Talking about therapy, that really leads into like what I kind of want to discuss next, which is it appears that we all adapted like a different parenting style from the parenting that we lived.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's almost like there are certain things that we wish we had.
Yes.
So these are the things that we don't want to neglect from our children. Because we know what that is.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. It's a combination. I have learned to, and I still am continuing to learn, because there's a lot of things that I did love about what my parents and made sure that they instill in us. And I think that even now, me as a grown-ass woman, I really value those. So it's like having the balance of some of the great things that I learned from my parents with a combination of me, my authentic self, and how I would love to raise my boys, right? And my experiences and what's going through now in our lives. So it's like trying to get that balance, which sometimes it can be hard.
Very hard.
Sometimes it can be very hard,
You could tilt for one way, sometimes more than the other.
Yeah. And so, it's a balance. It's a challenge every day, and I feel like sometimes even my parenting, some people don't get it. Some people don't get it. I can be very firm and not, I don't want to use the word hard, but very firm and structured, but very loving and caring. if that makes sense. Like, I know that my boys might not share with me every details of their life, right? We don't have that you're my best friend experience, but I know for a fact that if they are in need in any aspect, emotionally, mentally, physically, right? I know that I am their go person.
Perfect. And that to me is bigger than anything.
Yeah. And so, but it's a balance. Like, it's just really like trying to raise boys that can be independent, emotionally, mentally, physically, financially. And I really kind of enforced that a lot when I got sick, because I didn't know if I was going to be alive tomorrow. So I even remember telling my oldest one, he was already in college when I got sick. I would tell him, like, you might feel that I'm pushing you, but I really am not. I just want to make sure that whenever I'm not here, that you're going to be okay.
Isn't that, that's one of the things that we want to train our children to.
That I don't have to worry about, oh my God, what's going to happen to you? How are you going to survive? How are you going to take care of yourself? That I know that you are going to be able to be a responsible, loving, caring adult.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And so sometimes, that can create, a little bit of, I think sometimes, especially when they're growing up and they're in their 20s, it becomes a little, sometimes there's some power struggle there, but I think overall he understands, like, where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Having that open communication is so important with your children. And again, we all struggle sometimes to communicate how we feel, and they struggle with receiving the information. And I love the way you also said, the takeaways and the things we will always carry from our mothers, our parents. I think that is so beautiful, because I love one being Latina.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I love, certain things that our grandmothers and our moms and our tias instilled in us, and I am so grateful for all of that. So thank you, ladies.
Yes. Absolutely. Like, I remember hearing from uncle tias and even mommy, like, you don't need to like me right now. You don't have to be my best friend. Like, as long as you are doing, what you need to do. And of course, that's an extreme. So I'm not taking all of that, but I'm also seeing it, kind of understand what they were trying to say at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Of course, you got to be there emotionally for your kids, but how do you create that balance?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And while we talk about this, we're not promoting any like parenting style, like this is the right one, this is what you need to do. We're simply just talking about our experiences. We're not also like, putting down any parenting style. We're just simply just saying like things that we took away, like what worked for us, like
we're not experts in this.
no, actually, we need guidance ourselves. But I like certain things, like you said, that our parents instilled in us, like honest work and work hard and all of these great things. But I think that my reason for kind of like developing or going more towards a different parenting style is because of the emotional factor.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, one of the reasons why I decided to move towards a different parenting style was because even though my parents were there for me and took care of me, make sure that all of my physical needs were met, because they did. They made sure that all of my physical needs were met. They neglected my emotional needs.
Oh, yeah.
So it was really important for me to teach my son to feel safe, you know, in his feelings, in his, you know, emotions. So I want to be able to validate it and to have him know that he has a voice, and you know. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and these are sort of things that we want our children to continue sharing, and that's like, how do you call that, like stopping and ending generational beliefs and generational upbringing that didn't serve us growing up. So ending that, right? So because communication is so important. And this is the way we know when needs are met or not. So I totally agree with you with that whole thing about being our parents meeting us in every way, with all our physical needs. I think my dad kicked ass, you know? So, but emotionally, there's certain things that I definitely wish there was a more space for me to be able to feel comfortable enough to share without feeling judged and understood. Because the first person, anybody, especially us Latinos, we call our moms, you know, mom, your mommy, whatever. But it's sometimes it's difficult to go there because it's not that comfortable,
Yeah.
you know.
So I'm sure that, you know, in our culture, los muchachos se crían de una manera específica, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty much, what is it? Children are meant to be seen but not heard.
Exactly.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's the belief.
Yeah. It was that, right? So having this new way of doing things, and I can tell like all three of us, like allowing our children to have a voice, to like have a say, to have, you know, an opinion, whatever. How difficult it is to like feel safe showing that to your family.
There's a word. You want to hear what it is? Tú lo que eres una apoyadora.
Yes.
Okay? To the full extent. Like, it's so crazy how I thought like certain things like that will be seen by the people that I respect. I would think that they would be like, oh my God, mira, ella hace esto. Y ella le habla a su hijo para ver lo que está diciendo, para que ellos puedan comunicarse mejor. No. ¿Y qué es lo que tú le estás preguntando? ¿Qué es lo que ella quiere de desayuno? Que coma lo que hay. They don't need to have choices. That's one of the big one for me. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, of course.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. And I think that, you know, to their defense, I think that I don't think it's coming from a malicious space.
No.
I don't think it comes from a space of hate. Once again, it's that whole generational trauma. If we even think about our ancestors, did they have choices?
Oh, no.
Was there such a thing to believe that you had choices? To think about poverty, right?
No.
Do you have choices, right? You don't. And I think that it just transferred from generation to generation to generation, where there's this belief like kids have choices. Like, we're struggling here. Like, we're trying to survive. You're giving them choices. So I think that's the concept, that it's hard for them to understand that. Not because they're being malicious, but I think is the cycle, the ongoing cycle. Because even, you know, we consciously know, yes, they should have choices. Right?
Yeah.
Like, yes, they should be able to share their thoughts and feelings. And there are moments in my parenting moments that I'm like, I don't tell them, but in my mind, I'm like, oye, este muchachito no se calla, he has an opinion for everything.
Sometimes yo dije, está bueno que me pase.
Tienen contento para todo. But, and then, you know, of course, I don't share that because I know, like, I understand where you're coming from. but it's also my experience.
Ay, ya cállate. Es lo que yo te digo. And I can see where our parents did it. It's easier. Ay, ya cállate. And sometimes they didn't even have the answers to certain things, like questions we had, and they didn't know how to answer it, and they'd be like, ya cállate.
Yeah. Good point there. It was easier when you're a parent, when you kind of understand sometimes like why they parent the way that they did. You know, like our parents were in this came to this country. They didn't really speak the language. You know, trying to survive. So there was no like they were burned out. There was no self care for them. ¿Quién tiene papá? El muchacho. So and kids can take so much from you. Like they just can't. Because it's just easier to just be like. Because that's easier than have to sit there and have to like deal with a tantrum and instead of taking the kid and dándole, you know, trying to like meet them where they're at and, you know, understand them and validate them. It is. It's a lot of work.
Use your words. I do see that you're sad. Can you tell me why? Could you imagine being told that as a kid? You know?
Yeah.
Sigue llorando.
It's so interesting you guys are mentioning that because there was a time my husband and I were doing marriage therapy, and we were talking about parenting, and our youngest one, boy, does he have a personality. He is constantly fighting the cause. My husband has a really hard time with that. Like, he speaks his mind. If he has to challenge something, he does. And so something came up in our session where we started talking about our son, and I don't know even how it came up, but the story was that he was getting prepared to do laundry, and he realized as he's getting prepared that there's no fabric softener. So he's like, there's no fabric softener. So I'm like, oh my God. I said, you have two choices. You either can do it without it, or you can run downstairs and go to the supermarket and get one. So he's like, oh, but God, I was getting ready. I'm getting ready to go downstairs. My mind was focused on doing laundry. And I'm like, I hear you. Yes, it's very frustrating. You have two choices. I just kept saying that. So my husband's in the kitchen. He comes out and he's like, my man, you either do the laundry today without it, or you go downstairs, or you just wait until we get the fabric softener, right? Like, why do you keep going in circles with your mom? So he's like, oh, I'm just going to do it without it. So we're like, cool. So he goes to the kitchen, gets the tie, and my husband's in the kitchen, and once he gets the tie, he goes, this cycle better be good without the fabric softener. And my husband was like, what are you saying? And then he leaves to his room, and then he looks at me, he's like, is he threatening me? Like, what are you doing? Is he disrespecting me? I'm like, chill, no, that's not the case, calm down. And so he's sharing the story with our therapist, and then when he ends, he's like, he's just so disrespectful. I can't believe he's just saying that to my face. What does he mean by that? And the therapist goes, wow, you're such a good father. And he's like, what? The fact that your son has no fear to really express to you how he feels in that moment. That he knows that what he says to you, you're not going to hit him. You're not going to yell at him. You're not going to punch him. That he's able. That's a child who's safe to express how he feels.
Love that. Oh, amazing.
And he immediately just like put his head down and started kind of like crying because he was like, I never even registered that.
Look at that. That whole thing that was supposed to be like, I'm listening to you, and that's definitely not what I thought she was going to say.
Yeah. Me neither.
She shifted that whole thing.
Yes. Safety. Emotional safety.
And emotional safety is important, just like physical safety.
You know, he didn't disrespect, you know, he was like, and honestly, he was like, that better be good. It wasn't a threat to him, but he was like, damn, I could do this without it because I don't want to go get it.
Yes. And then she went back and she was like, do you think you would have been able to say that to your father? He's like, absolutely not. That's why you probably feel it's disrespectful. Your inner child feels it's disrespectful. And I was like, thank you! Please tell him.
That is beautiful. Yeah, I guess I am being open where they're feeling open to tell me. Sometimes I'm like, no, she didn't. No, she freaking didn't. And I'm like, oh, I guess that's, she's safe.
Yeah.
They're both my niece too.
That's what, and it's viewed as disrespectful.
Yes.
¿Qué te dijo? ¿Qué no? ¿Qué te dijo? ¿Qué te dijo lo otro? And it's not that they're just
Te vas a sacar los ojos.
Te vas a sacar los ojos. De acuerdo que te sacarán los ojos. Te van a sacar los ojos, right? Like, there was this happened during Mateo's 4th birthday, you know, and it was around that time. So, I don't know, when he turned 4, he was like very emotional, he was very cranky. Yo no sé qué le estaba pasando, and, you know, Will is home, we're having dinner's over, and it's like, all right, it's time to like take a bath, like go to bed. Yo no sé qué fue lo que pasó y eso, que he was fighting me about it, and I was like, you know, I'm sorry, this is what we're gonna do now. I know you don't want to do it, but you have to go to school tomorrow, this is what's happening, qué sé yo qué. Y el muchachito me mira y me dice, I don't like you. I don't like you. I like Papa. I don't like you.
Ouch.
And I stood for a moment and was like, what the fuck? Yo! And I looked at him and I said, this is a galleta, but...
In your mind, right?
But in my mind, that's what happened.
This is a galleta. Your Dominican mom comes out.
I was like, I said, oh my God, Mateo, you know what, you don't like me? I love you. And I know that right now you're very angry at me. So right now you don't like me very much, and that is okay. But I love you, and I'm the only mom that you have. You know, and he left. And then I went to the kitchen, and at first it hit me like, does he really not like me? Yeah. Like he's 4. Is it normal for 4-year-olds to say that?
Absolutely.
But then I felt this rush of happiness, and I was like, damn, he feels so safe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Would you be able to say that at 4?
La galleta que yo vi estuviera en mi cara.
Yo no puedo decir eso ahora.
I say that. I'm very angry at you right now.
That is amazing. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Those are beautiful things, you know? And like you said, we see that as negative growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And we couldn't voice those things to any grown up, no matter who it was.
No, yeah. And like you said, your inner child does come out when you have these kids that have like this safety, you know, sometimes when they like keep like, you know, pushing and pushing.
Yes.
That little part of you that's like, yo, you're so fucking spoiled and privileged. You know what would have happened to me? That's that little girl.
That's that little girl. Yes.
Yeah.
Your inner children do
getting
come up.
angry.
They get angry. Like for me, I was, you know, my parents left the DR when I was 16. So I pretty much did everything on my own, pretty much. And so that was during the time that I was getting ready to graduate high school, thinking about college, and I had to do that by myself. So I had to really work on that because, especially now with my youngest one, he's like so laid back, not in a bad way, but he knows like I got support, I got help, I don't have to like be on survivor mode, and that would freak me out. Like I would get so angry. I'm like, you need to get organized, you need to do this, you need to do that, you have to do this, and I was just like, and he would be like, relax, chill. And he would do it on his pace. It's not like he's like, avoiding it, but he would do it on his pace. And I remember, and I'm like, that's my 17-year-old angry. at the fact that I had to do it all by myself. And then I see him like, what a little privileged little boy, right? That you don't have to worry. You don't have to rush and do things. You don't have to figure things out on your own. And you're just taking advantage of that. How crazy is that?
I know.
Right?
I know. And they're not supposed to know every single thing the way we knew them. At the age
No,
we
because
knew
they
them.
don't have our lifestyle.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
And we worked really hard to not give them, because I imagine the same way our parents did. They worked really hard to get us to where we are. And now they're working hard to get to, but in their pace, in their style, because they're being raised differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
I know. And it's so funny too, because like you said, that inner Dominican comes out from
Oh,
time to
oh
time.
yeah, she
The
does.
Dominican mom?
Yeah.
Yes.
The quirky, funny, we have all these refranes,
Yes. The other day, my younger son was like, what the hell? He calls me up and he's like, oh, I'm going to go to my friend's house, after school, I'm going to hang out. And I'm like, tú no le das calor a tu hogar. Tú no quieres estar en tu casa. Tú nada más quieres estar en casa ajena. And I'm like, oh my God, I sound like my mom.
I definitely do. I look at myself sometimes, I'm like, I'm my mother. I am my mother.
And he's like, what? Que tú no le quieres dar calor a tu hogar. Eso es. Tú nada más quieres estar en casa ajena. ¿Qué tanto eso? Mom, come on. Come on, Mom. I'm just going to be there for a little bit.
Yeah. That's you. Talking to your mom. Same thing. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, the Dominican does want to come up. Like, Mateo talks a lot.
Yeah.
And he asks a lot of questions. And he won't stop asking until he's satisfied with the answer. So one question will turn into another one and another one. And, yo ahí voy y le contesto todo lo que yo pueda. Actually, being with him asking so many questions, I'm like, yo no sé de nada.
It's true. You gotta be like, Google.
But some, and I'm there, I'm answering whatever, but sometimes when that Dominican comes out,
Dominican mom.
I don't say it to him, I say it to myself, or discreetly to my husband, and be like, pero este muchito se habla, y no se calla, Dios mío, él me quiere desmayar, me voy a tirar por la ventana, este muchito no se calla.
Ay, Dios mío. It was something like that with Alicia's dad and I. I'd be like, Tag, you're it. Like, I'm sorry, I can't. No. This is a lot. Y ella, oh my God, ella hablaba.
Yes.
Ahora está más tranquila con la comunicación. Soy yo de que, so, how was your day? So tell me, to get her to talk to me, but when she was small, era así mismito.
Yeah.
Un sponge, y todo se le recordaban, todo. And I'm like, you remember that? Oh, shit, I do have to do this. Damn, una memoria.
Yeah.
It's just so interesting. And, it's constantly fighting that Dominican mother that lives inside us. Because sometimes she has good points. And sometimes, there's a valid concerns. But it's how do you keep that balance? Like, I love my parents, and, they did the best that they could with the resources and the abilities that they had. But we are in different places. We are in a different lifestyle.
Yeah.
We, know things that they didn't know. We have more knowledge. And so we have to do better. That's what I tell my husband all the time. Like, when your Dominican father comes out, you have to control him, right? Like, we have to do better because they didn't know any better. But we do.
Yes.
We do.
It's our responsibility.
It's our responsibility. So even talking to my youngest son, when he's very, he gets it done, but he's very laid back. I am very structured, right? I am doing things. Okay, if I have to do this in a week, I'm working in it 2 weeks prior. That's the way I function. He waits for the last minute. So I had to have a serious conversation, which was so great. I was like, listen, I get it. You work differently, and you make it happen. And that works for you. But I want you to be mindful and respectful about the way that I work. So when you come to me at the last minute, like, hey, I need help with this, or hey, we got to do this, and you're not giving me enough time frame, I get very, very anxious.
That's a respectful way to come
And
out.
I then get flustered, and then I get frustrated too, because it's like I feel like I don't have enough time to help you. And so I'm honoring the way that you work. I want you to honor the way that I work. So I want you to give me, I hear it, you can do it overnight. You got to give me about 3 days.
Yeah.
And he's like, I get it, Mom. Sure.
That's, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that you were able to say that to him too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's respecting one another.
Yes.
You value his, respect his, do the same for me. I get it. Yo creo que también esta temporada, these kids, they all do that. Alicia's the same way. Destiny's the same way. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
ella sí mismito, everything is and you just look at them like, that would have taken me, oh my God, like all day. And of course, they didn't grow up with the amount of expectations and stuff, the way we have to handle life, you know. Again, not necessarily a horrible way of growing up. I think I'm very lucky in a lot of ways. But there are certain ways in terms of our emotional needs that they have, you know, a lot of great things because of it, because we allow them to be who they are.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Like my oldest son, he is getting ready to fly on his own.
Oh my gosh.
And so that was also very controversial because my mother didn't believe the way that I was dealing with it.
Mm-hmm.
Margaret believed the way that I was.
Yeah.
But there was
I thought it
people
was
that
the way.
didn't agree,
Uh-huh.
right? Like I always told him, you finish school, and then once you finish school, you get yourself a job. And I said, you don't have to give me money for the household. I want you to save your money so that you can start your own life.
Yeah.
The goal is that you need to start your own life.
Yeah, that's every parent's dream, I think, you know?
Yes. So I was like, I don't want to rely on his money because I want him, like I'm already taking care of the bills, right? While he was in school. So just save up money to go ahead and move. And that experience for him was really difficult because he was saving the money. He's really good at saving the money. But there was a little bit of fear of like leaving, which makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
So there was always like, I'm going to do this, and then no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this, and no, I'm not. I'm going to do this. And I said to him, right, we're here to support you. We love you. We know you can do this. You have a year to kind of figure out what you're going to do, and then after that, you definitely have to fly on your own. And a lot of people felt like I was putting a lot of pressure. The rent is too high. There's, we should give more flexibility to our kids. That's no.
But you gotta prepare them for the harsh reality. This
Yes.
is what it's really like. We cannot avoid it.
Yes.
So he's either gonna fall flat on his face when you're not available to do it.
Yes. Amen. Yes. Or when I'm not here anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, you know, you just don't want to keep them that way.
Yes. So then he was like, okay. So now he's doing the work, but there was a pattern of like, yeah, I'm going to do it. No, I'm not going to do it. No, I'm going to take this apartment. No, I'm going to take the other one. And I sat with him just a few days. I was like, listen, I know that being on your own is going to be your first time and it's extremely scary.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to show you a pattern that I'm noticing. When the moment comes that you're like, yeah, I'm going to do this, and you realize that it's real, you come back with there's something wrong with that apartment. No, I'm not. Yes, let me show you. So I started talking to him and I said, you're not alone. We're here with you. We're going to be with you no matter what. Like you financially, emotionally, you are my world. Like I would never let you, fall and not pick you up. Right?
Mhm.
So just do it. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. You're ready. You got this.
What a freaking boost of confidence that can give them too.
You got this.
Yeah.
You can do this. We're going to be with you 100%. There's certain, even if we feel like this is not the apartment you should get, if you want it, then go.
Yeah.
And then it took a few days and he's like, all right, I'm going to make my choice by this Monday. I'm like, yes, do so. And I think sometimes we're also so afraid of the kids that we enable them.
Yeah. And another thing that we have as Dominican or Latina parents is the fear of letting them go. Especially Dominican mothers letting go of their baby boys. That's a whole different episode because let me tell you, we were raised differently. But
it's so fun because I tell my kids, I am not your typical Dominican mom.
Oh yes, no. And it's like, you know, their babies are their boys. And again, I know my mom loves me with all her heart. Don't get offended. But boys and their moms are like, that's a whole special bond right there. And it's very difficult for them to let go.
Yeah.
It's something from another universe.
Yes.
So it's that enabling is keeping them there because they're all their fears or they just want to keep them, you know?
Yeah. My mother's like, ay, pobre muchachito.
Ay, pobre muchachito. Yesenia así, de que yo no entiendo, ¿por qué que Yesenia así?
Yeah.
Yesenia, una mujer tan fría, una madre tan fría.
Ese pobre niño. Hacer lo que salga a sufrir. A sufrir.
Un muchacho que no es de la calle.
Un muchacho que no le da dolor de cabeza.
So you're gonna keep him in your pocket for life. Let's keep him in that room forever. I'm gonna be 100 and he's gonna be in that room.
Porque no coge la calle.
No, but I think they would keep their babies there. It's something, I don't know what it is. It's such a big thing, the love, you know. And of course, as a mother, a love for your child is something. Again, how we started this episode. Our children,
Unconditional.
it's unconditional.
It's unconditional.
So,
And I think my job is, and that's what I keep saying, like, I love you and everything, but my job is to make sure, I don't know, that's for me. Every parent, their job description is different, and I'm not judging. But for me, my job is two things, two very important things. I have boys. So I want them to be, yes, emotional. They have some emotional intelligence, be able to support their partner emotionally, be grounded for themselves, but also be independent. Also be able to live their lives, be able to travel, be able to have their own place, be able to experience life without me, right? Like, not living in the same roof.
we are here on this earth to guide our
Yes.
children, to be their teacher. We do not take ownership of them.
No, they don't belong to
They
us.
do not belong to us.
Mm-mm.
F. Shakur said that to Tupac forever. It's a huge thing. Seriously, there is an actual folk song that they used to sing to each other.
Yeah.
Tupac and Funny. Watch the show.
But
But it's something incredible, and I love that saying because I'm here to protect you, to guide you, to make sure that you're ready for this thing called life.
Yes.
And
Yes.
And the beautiful thing is that even when you're on your own, I'm still gonna be here.
Yes.
We're not gonna
Yes.
we don't live together, but I'm still gonna be here.
You're supposed to build your life.
Absolutely.
Make your own journey and your story, and we're right there.
Yes.
But we got to make them stronger. But you know, again, there goes that ownership. We think they belong to us. You know, and they need to do what we say and how we do things. And just because it looks different for you doesn't mean that I don't love you. I just don't see it that way, and that's all it is, you know. But parenting alone is so difficult at times, you know. So our parents did their best, you know.
They did. They just, it's just very different for us.
Yeah.
Because we're dealing with different kids.
Yeah.
They're, like, I cannot see my younger son dealing with my mom if that was our mom. They will kill each other. Yes.
Yeah.
But then again, no, because he probably would have lived in fear. I don't know.
Yeah.
He would not be emotionally available. Like he is because what we've been doing.
Yeah.
So
That's true. Wow.
Parenting, parenting is hard. Parenting is a learning experience, And no matter what you do, like, you never know that you're 100% doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a very difficult journey, and everybody's, even though we have we have kids and they may be the same age, my experience is different than yours. Like, we can like relate to some things, and we can like be here for each other, but every child is different, in their own way. Mm-hmm.
So, we're almost coming to an end. So, can we talk about maybe two things? Maybe, like consejos, right? Like, for parents or for individuals who are thinking about becoming parents. Maybe talk a little bit of how do we fight the Dominican mom that lives inside of us?
Oh my goodness, good question. Well, like we always said, I learned a lot with my child. And one of the things that I learned on how to deal with Alicia is we did family therapy. It was the best thing that I ever did. I feel that whole thing was dedicated to her because I noticed, it was so, at one point she was emotionally reacting in school, and they sent me to have a meeting to like evaluate her because we didn't know if it was something to do with her developmental delays, or if it had anything to do with anything. But thankfully, we were able to figure out exactly what the core issue was, and it was emotional.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a very good person at the school that came up and was like, why don't you just try therapy and see where this is all stemming from? So fast forward to, what we did. Family therapy helped us go through all that stuff, and thankfully, she's been able to do the best she can. So that's one thing that I will definitely suggest. Communication problems with your children, if there's emotional things that come up, and you see that the child is struggling to speak to you, or to, sometimes they don't have the words to express what their feelings are. They don't know what is. Go to therapy. If there's anger, any of that. And in terms of fighting my inner Dominican, oh my God, there's a lot of self-talk. There's like, I go to the bathroom, I'm like, ay Dios mío, journal. Ahí ese journal tiene de todo. And, talking to my girls, what do you guys do? Questions, how do you deal with this? What do you say? Definitely finding ways before I react towards her, because, sometimes I gotta bring that inner Dominican out. Like mi coño, pero seriously, like, you're gonna do that, But of course, let her know, like, I have, you gotta understand where I come from, and kind of like to do my own thing, with it. So that's my thing for you guys. Suggestion.
I would say me. Again, the therapy is a big one, and it's not that we're pushing therapy, but it's that like that is something that obviously helped all of us. Like, that's a big thing, because one of my biggest fears was, kind of like transmitting all of my negative beliefs from, to my son. Yeah. So he was one of the reasons, right? Really, really, even with those moments that I went really deep into like my shadow work, and it was just like, ugh, I can't do this anymore. It was like I was like, but I'm doing it for me and for him, so that he can just have, a better version of me, a real version of me. So that's very important. And I talk to my cousin that has, kids like me, and Jessie, I talk to her all the time when I worry about something. Should I be worried about this? How do I handle that? So it's having a community, and feeling safe to be like, my kid is doing this, and knowing that like no one is like, I'm not gonna judge you. You're not gonna judge me. Like, we have small children. They're crazy. They are. Building that safe space where it's like I can come and talk about like the things that I'm dealing with my child, that I'm worried about, the things that he's doing, and I don't know if if I should worry or not. And then in terms of my Dominican mom, I'm really aware that she's like there, so I let her come to my head, and I entertain the thought, and then I'm like, okay. That would be so good to say.
I love that.
Pero a veces se me hace falta también, que le dijo, echo carajo este muchachito, me voy a ir un día de esto, Dios mío, ayúdame. And one day he told me, no one is going to help you. And I said, what?
Ay, Dios mío, Mateo. He's adorable. It's adorable.
Yeah. Advice, consejos. There's so many, right? I think communication with your kids. I also think communication with either your partner or your person you're co-parenting. I know sometimes that's not the case. It's not possible. But for me, that's been very helpful. Like my husband and I, sometimes we have different types of the way to parent, but we are able to talk about it and like talk, he'll express his thoughts and feelings, I express mine, and I think that we kind of meet halfway, and that helps a lot. So being able to have that support is huge. Having a community too is very big, and even, of course, there's not I don't take everything my mom says, but there are moments when I reach out to her and I'm like, oh, no, my son is thinking about this, or hey, this happened, and, she's been able to share some thoughts.
That's good.
Is it like I share everything? No, but there are things that I do think of her, and I call her and I ask her, like, what are your thoughts? How do I handle my inner Dominican mom? Bueno. Sometimes it's hard because listen, when she comes out, it's because something is bothering you. And she's just telling you how to handle it her old way. This is the Dominican mom who has not done therapy.
And something that's happened more than once, and she's like, you need to do it my way.
Yes. Yes. And so I try to talk to her and be like, listen, yes, you're absolutely right. Let me show you how we can handle this differently. So I try to show her. But there are moments that I'm like, sí, eso es verdad. Y vamos a hablar con ellos. Vamos a hablar porque eso se está pasando de mano. So it's just knowing how to have that balance. It's having a community. Is hopefully being able to co-parent, right? Is also being okay with knowing that you don't have the answers to everything. Being okay that this is also a new experience for you. That you don't let go of that power struggle. Yes, that it's okay to not know everything. It's okay, like it's okay like to be mindful and in tune with your feelings. What's coming up? Like, ask yourself when your kids say something, what's coming up for you? Is he reminding you of your past? Why is it so emotionally triggered? Why is your 4-year-old getting you so emotionally triggered? Why is your 17 getting you so emotionally triggered? Right? Explore that before responding.
Yeah, it's okay not to have the answers.
Mm-hmm.
And tell your child that I don't know right now. I truly don't know, and you need to allow me time to figure that out.
I think it's important to also set boundaries with them.
Yes. Oh my God, how could we forget that?
Because if you as a parent, even if you as a parent set boundaries, like right now, even if you can right now, I can't, I need a moment, whatever. It teaches them. It teaches them that I can do this.
Yes.
And they'll start by doing it with you.
Yes.
And then even if you don't want to, because you're like, you're using this.
Yeah.
You don't really need you know.
Well, that's your Dominican mom.
You need to honor that because, you know, that okays it for them and they
Yes.
go through life setting boundaries.
Yes. Like my one of my kids, you know, they broke curfew, and I was so pissed off because it was becoming a pattern. It's an ongoing thing, and he was already ready. A darme la historia. I'm so sorry, que se yo qué, when he arrived. I was like, listen, I am highly upset right now. I'm so upset right now that I can't think straight. And I don't want to offend you, and I don't want to create tension. So, you know what? I'm not ready to talk about this. And please respect that. We would definitely talk about it, but I'm just not ready right now. And he's like, oh, so you want to talk? When do you want to talk? And I'm like, when I'm ready, I will come to you. I'll knock on your door and I'll be like, can we talk now? But I can't do it right now. And he's like, okay. And he got up and he went to his room.
I bet you that was the last time that disappointment
Yes.
he felt,
Yes.
right? Oh,
Yes.
I let her down. She doesn't
Yes.
even want to yell at me.
Mm-hmm.
Because they already know. They expect that.
Mm-hmm.
They expect the
She's
yelling.
she's gonna complain.
She'll get over it.
Absolutely. So it's boundaries too. Like setting the boundaries when I told him, like, you need to work with me too. I think sometimes we get caught up that we're not setting boundaries with our kids, and that also creates resentment.
Yeah.
It's just too much.
Yeah.
You know, but it's also good for them to know that relationships have boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
They have to learn how to form boundaries in their life. And the only way to do that is if they're around people that set boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
It shows them to speak up for themselves anywhere, in a job, with their partners, with even us. You know, call me out too. Call me out too. If I'm doing something that is triggering you, call me out. Let me know this is making me feel this way, and I don't like it.
Yep.
You know, and it's again forming safe space.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have been so happy about this episode because, you know, I've been around all types of cultures. So our parenting is a little bit different, you know, and it's good to share it. And I hope that there's some takeaways from this
Yes.
for you guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This was wonderful. Once again, if you have any questions or comments or feedback, please feel free.
Suggestions, any of
And
it.
yes, please feel free to use our email, notodosecuraconvicts@gmail.com. And also you can go to our social media platforms like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. DM us. We'd love to hear from you, and let us know if any of this touched you, or if you try any of the,
or if there's any topics you want to talk about.
Yes.
Or, you
or
wanna
maybe
hear about.
maybe you can tell us what your inner Dominican mom says to you.
Share.
Oh, yes.
Yes, remember our YouTube page is No Todo Se Cura con Vex. Please click that button, like, share, and please subscribe. So you can
Yes.
get all the videos of these wonderful podcast episodes.
Yes.
Yeah.
See you
See you.
soon.
Thank you so much. Adios.